panelists can hear you, give a thumbs up. So, we're asking those that are online right now, the panelists, can you get off in the room, give us a thumbs up? All those,
Trey.
give us a thumbs up, do you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Take it away. Sure. Very good. Good evening, welcome to the Malden, City Malden Planning Board first virtual meeting. I'm Chuck Iovan, I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting. I would like to read something first for the virtual meeting. In accordance with Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and Governor Baker's March 23, 2020 revised guidance on order by the governor prohibiting assemblies of more than 10 people. This meeting will be conducted virtually and provide for remote public attendance in the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted, and all be made to permit remote public attendance of this virtual meeting via technological means in the manner specified below. And if available, via public broadcast of the meeting by Malden Access Cable Television on public access television channels. Public access will also be provided by posting draft minutes and or transcript recording or record a record of the meeting on the City of Malden website at www.cityofmalden.org as soon as practicable after the meeting. Additional information and guidance on the public meeting can be found at www.cityofmalden.org, Document Center, View, and then you look up the public hearings that we're going to get tonight. For those in attendance in the room, I'd like to remind you to speak up. We've got speakers of surrounding the area of the table, but please speak up and speak clearly. When you're speaking, you can lower your mask. When you finish speaking, please raise it back up over. Also, if you'd like to speak, just raise your hand. I will recognize you. That will allow for for people to know who's speaking, and then you can ask a question or whatever it is you need to speak about, and then we'll go on to the next person from there. Is there any questions from the planning board? Charlie, if you want to start with a roll call, start with you, and then we'll go into Waddington and Diana, so around the
Charles Ferguson, Planning Board.
Odette Kubasanathi, Planning Board.
Diane Shuha, Planning Board.
Rita Gray, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Michelle Romero, City Planner.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Eric McCush, Planning Board.
Brad Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. The first petition we're going to hear this evening is 3743 Madison Street. I see that Steve Catino is in the call. So Steve, if you'd like to introduce yourself in a moment, name and address for the record. Michelle's going to read the notice first, and then we can proceed from there.
Okay. Yep. My name is, should I go now?
No, you have to read the notice first, and then
Okay.
we'll
The Malden Planning Board will hold a virtual public hearing at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 26, 2020, on the petition of Stephen Catino and Patrick Catino made under Section 12.28.010D of Chapter 12 Revised Ordinances of 2020 as amended, formerly Section 701.3.1 of Chapter 12 Revised Ordinances of 1991 as amended, for special permit and to amend the special permit granted in case number 0403 to allow residential conversion of a portion of a pre-existing non-conforming use and property in the Residence B zoning district, namely to convert the commercial storefront to a seventh residential unit at the property known as the number 37-43 Madison Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City of Malden Assessors Parcel ID 062308805. And its city website plans and petition are available for review and CMID 0309111-2019.
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Catino, if you want to start, you can start right now.
Hi, Stephen Catino. My home address is 17 Eastern Ave, Stoneham, Mass. And this is my brother, Patrick.
Hello, Patrick.
And we're looking to, as Michelle said, to make a seventh apartment from the existing structure, what was years ago a store, a small store, a commercial store.
Okay, can you describe what's going to take place? What type of renovations you're going to do? What type of adjustment to footprint to the building?
Yep. With the building, it's going to stay as is, the way it is. There's a couple of windows that we'll put new windows. We're going to put it's going to be a studio apartment with a living room that would serve as the bedroom as well, a kitchenette with a counter that would serve as the table, so where the unit is small, and a bathroom that all conforms to regulations, state regulations. And the back of the house is currently there's a front door and a back door. And the back door would also have a small deck with the staircase. For the structure, we are also going to have it, the alarms, the water.
Yeah, one of the most important things we felt was to upgrade the fire safety system in there, which is a requirement. But once you move up to the seventh, which is right now, it's hardwired in with smokes. But this will include upgrading it to a wet fire suppression system.
For the entire building.
For the entire building, including the new apartment
Right.
and the basement.
And so we would service it with its own heat source. In addition to that, we're going to really, we're spending a lot of money. It's going to really beautify the building with the front. We're taking that fence down and putting a conforming fence with, whatever we could put in there with the unit's own private patio area or yard area at one side of the yard. And we are doing the backyard. It's going to look nice. We have a contractor ready to come in to repave and to increase the parking from 9 spots to 11 spots. We've already got the tree. It was just an eyesore on the back of the house, and we are going to put a nice white vinyl fence up to beautify the property from both sides of the property, from the walking trail and as well as ours. And I think that's it, right?
Yeah, well, one of the other things we're going to do is alongside the neighbor's yard is to pull out and replace all the overgrowth there had us an old dilapidated fence with all the weeds and trees and stuff growing through, and create a nice line for the neighbors as well as us, and along with repaving it and putting up to code parking requirements, and so it's going to look good from the back. You can see from the walking trail or over at the coffee place off the curb appeal from the front.
Are you going to replace the vinyl siding that's there right now?
The vinyl siding is actually new. It's only about 12 years old, and we were required to replace that years ago. I mean, there's really not much. It's really pretty new and pretty in good condition, except I think on the driveway side, there's one piece missing, and we certainly could fix that from the car. The car may have hit it.
And recently we had, I'm sorry.
Now, I was just gonna ask, what the proposed new unit, what is that gonna be? Is that gonna be sided, or is that just gonna be painted over the concrete that's there, or?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I would like to just paint it to keep it the same with a neutral color.
And the new windows are only in the new unit, the new unit you're requesting.
I didn't hear that.
Could you
The new
repeat that?
windows in your presentation, is that throughout the house or only in the new unit?
The new windows.
All the new windows, just in that unit, because the unit all has, we've already replaced every single window in the house with the vinyl up and down windows,
Okay.
as well as the porch room. You know, those are newer. We've done so much work to that house over the course of the years with the permits. Even the sunroom windows on the lower level, they have all, and the upper level have new, what do they call it?
Screen.
Screens. Yeah, the screens that go up and down. So those were all replaced as well.
Okay, you mentioned the deck in your presentation. Was that just for the new unit or for all 7 units?
The deck is just for the new unit because the current deck did it about 7 or 8 years ago as well. It was all torn down.
All those dilapidated faulty decks were replaced.
The fire marshal came, or the firemen came by and they told us that we had to do something, and we jumped on it within a month of once he told us to do it.
Okay. How long do you own the property?
With both of us, it's going, I would imagine about 28 years.
Since around 1987, 1988, in that
So,
area.
Yeah, close to 30 then, so.
Okay. What's driving the conversion of the unit from storage to a new living space?
Well, I think, you know, it's to maximize the property. I mean, we just have a vacant building that's serving no, I mean, a vacant unit that's serving no purpose. And we were actually working on this like about 3 or 4 years ago, but then there was a moratorium on building, you know, and we've been saving the money. You know, we're not the type of landlords, like you could ask any of our tenants. We're so proactive when they call us to do anything. I mean, I've received letters from people, you know, that left there just saying that we were like the best landlords they ever had, because we don't wait. You can go knock on their doors anytime. I think they'll all tell you.
Very clean. All the units are very clean.
I have one lady, you know, tenants come and go, but there's one woman that's been there for about 18 years and she does not want to leave. You know, most of our tenants, you know, the turnaround for rentals could be about 2 years, you know, but we've had people there for 10 years that we don't, you know, gouge them. And one woman, she was there for about 12, 14 years and she left to buy her own house. She was so happy. I had 2 tenants like that. So we're very, very fair.
Okay, the last question that I have at the moment is the mechanicals. They're shown in the basement. Is that the mechanicals for the whole unit, or is that just for the basement?
What mechanicals, the things coming out the sides, or? I think they're vent systems. We were required to put ventilation in the basement because the heaters were down there.
So we have power vents on each unit has its own source of heat and electricity. They're all separately metered. And because of the proximity in the house, it wouldn't be feasible to run up through the chimneys. So each of the units has a power vent, and it safely pulls the air out and expels it outside.
Okay, but the main mechanical units are in the basement.
For the heating systems, yes.
That's the utility.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for the petition? Anyone have any questions? Henry?
How long has the unit been vacant?
Pardon?
How long has that unit been vacant?
The store?
Commercial.
ones? I'd say about 15 years.
15 years.
At least, I'm just guessing.
TC's Coffee Repair was the last tenant
In there.
in there, and he moved over, I think it's Everett.
Ever, yeah, he used to repair, we were grandfathered in when we bought the house, and he used to repair coffee, I don't know if anyone remembers.
The Bun-O-Matic, the old bun machines,
And as well as all the equipment for,
espresso machines
espresso
for
machines.
restaurants and things of that
Yeah,
nature.
and so I don't know if he's
The
still,
side- The setback from the sidewalk is far narrower than the main house, is that true? I'm just going from the picture here.
yeah, it's, exactly.
So you see, Henry, in 93, that storefront was converted to residential storage. So that's why I was asking why they were doing the conversion.
Right.
They were renting it out to not need storage anymore. And it sounds like they said it's vacant.
Right, like one person has her own storage, like they have like a little shed in the back. Like when you look at the little bump outs, and that's below the bathroom. So she has it, and then another person, he has so many closets, no one really needs it, because they have enough
It's
storage.
been pretty
Yeah,
vacant, except for the
clean.
one person has a couple Tupperware bins in there.
And I think a dolly, so it's something, and it's something she could even put in the shed. It's the same person that has the Tupperware bins, and they're empty.
Thank you.
You all set, Henry? Good. Anyone else have a question? Anyone have a question? Michelle?
I have a few questions. What are the dens used for?
One den, just is like a computer room. In the other den, it's more like, I think they just do storage. Before, they use it as a bar. The kid that just, like a number 41, they use it for a really cute bar with a little checkerboard, what are those things, chests?
Chess game, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most people use it just like I've had a couple of people use it as a bar.
Or a little stay couch or
Day
something.
couch, very small. They really do use it for like what it's set up to be used for, an office or a den.
So they're not used as bedrooms?
No,
No,
Okay. Where, you said a wet system, is that a sprinkler system?
yes.
that's what we're required to have, yes.
You're required to do a sprinkler system.
That's from what we were told, yes, and we're gonna do the whole building.
So, well, I didn't understand, it sounded like you were offering to do something additional. Are you only required to do part of a sprinkler system, or what? I didn't understand.
The entire building is gonna be a sprinkler system.
Well, my point was, when I was explaining that, it would be upgrading the entire building as well, as opposed to staying the way it is. It would offer another layer of protection for the tenants that live there.
Okay, and you're saying that's required? You're not, you're not,
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it, so, because it's required to do.
okay.
If we
I
move
just
up to
don't know-
the. I'm
I didn't know
sorry.
if you were offering to do it as a benefit. If it's required under the fire code, we won't require it as a condition. But if it's not, and you're just saying you're gonna do it, but it's not required, I would recommend it be part of this permit. Are you're sure it's required?
That's what I was told,
I believe it was, yeah, when you
Yeah.
upgrade from a 6 to a 7.
yeah.
If you go over 6 units, I was talked to and I was led to believe that it would require it, but we would be willing, even if it wasn't, it would be a concession we'd be willing to make.
Okay, and where are you putting the vinyl fence? On all sides, or just the rear yard after the dwelling? Are you putting it on the driveway side? Is it
Well, we
along
would-
the bike?
Yeah, we were gonna
Yeah.
put it along the driveway side, right? But of course, it wouldn't be as tall. It would kind of edge up, you know, it might be 3 feet
It's
coming
an
out
ex-
of the driveway. And then, you know, on the opposite side, we would try to have the person have some privacy, because that would be, because the unit is so small, it'd be good if they had a little outdoor space of their own. So that would, when you're walking up to the house, the left portion would have a fence for that person to use as their own little, if you want to call it a courtyard or what, you know, little privacy, so.
Little private sitting area.
The abutting house has a driveway that abuts your property. Where would this courtyard be, in the backyard?
No, to the front, right, in between where the store jumps out, right, the storefront jumps out, and as you walk into the house, to the left.
So the front yard to the left, right up to the sidewalk.
So to the right of the storefront.
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
So, but where is it, you mentioned pulling down shrubs or cleaning things up. Where is the
Looking-
rest of the vinyl?
Okay, so I don't know if you've ever been back there. We had those huge weeping willows. They were sick and old, and we had them removed, and we're gonna have the stump grinded. So along the bike trail, right over there to the rear, and then on the left side, the people that live next door, right now, it's all weeds and overgrowth, and, you know, like I said, it was going through the fence, and it's all twisted up, and the fence is really old. We were gonna tighten that up and make it look beautiful with a nice brand new fence. And it would clean our neighbor's yard as well as ours, and provide the neighbors with some additional privacy.
Okay, and what about the industrial property that's in that back corner? Is the fence gonna go the whole perimeter of the property?
No.
Or
No, no. And just so you know, they don't take care of their, you know, property. So I cut up to their building, you know, and it's an expense on me. But you know, if I put the fence there, just, you know, it would just be, you know, you'd get all the overgrowth and everything else like that. But we're just gonna go either a chain link fence from up to that building, or the white fence, you know, whatever we could do, because with snow plowing, we don't want to knock the, you know, if there wasn't a car in front of it, we don't want to knock the plow to knock the white fence down, because the chain link might be more durable for that respect. But yeah, we would not go against the industrial building. We would just keep the land, the grass cut to make it look
Yeah.
nice.
Okay, so now thank you. Just if you could clarify, so you're not gonna put vinyl fencing along that side? You're gonna put chain link, or?
So we
Okay, so from the rear, looking at our building from the street on the left side, from where the neighbor's driveway is exposed down to our property line, and probably have it do like a 45, a right angle right over to the industrial building. And then we weren't gonna do anything on that side of the industrial building. As you went towards the rear, towards the bike path, go from left to right with the white vinyl fence right up to our neighbor's line. So that would be, you know, a clean definition, and there'd be no trees or overgrowth there. And then on the right side, we would go with the lower fence. It wouldn't need to be 6 feet high. We get along good with the neighbor. He's a great guy. And we'll probably start off at 3 feet and then angle up and go to like 4 feet and go down to the end of the property line.
Michelle, and just so you know, in the planning board, what I also propose to do is, because I'm very conscientious about keeping this property clean, given the money we're gonna spend, I was gonna, if it's okay with you, to put a gate in the back of the building where the vinyl fence is, so I can go and weed whack against the fence, so it will always look good for the people walking against the trail. And I would just take, you know, just my part of the prop, you
At
know,
our own
at our own
expense.
expense, so.
I don't have a problem with the gate, and, I mean, that way your tenants can access the bike path, so.
Right, oh,
I
yeah.
don't- You can put a gate, I just, when I heard chain link fence, and it's not shown on the plan, so I wasn't clear where. So it's basically along the northern property line with the gate, western and eastern property line.
Yes.
Abutting residential. So you're gonna keep the yard grass?
Yes.
We'd like to keep it as much grass and green as we can.
Even with the additional parking, we still provide a space for the tenants to use, and they're always having barbecues, and they play,
Weddings.
they had, one of them even actually had a wedding, and then they've had the volleyball net, and it's really good use, you know, it's like their own small mini park there.
Thank you.
You don't have, Michelle? Anyone else have any questions for the petition? Eric Henry.
Thank you, Chuck. Just one quick question. I was reading through some of the previous cases here. I just wanted to explicitly ask that to your knowledge, there are no more issues with regards to asbestos in the property?
I don't think so, because everything down the basement is new. And, you know, from what I could see, you know, we've had everything, all the old heating systems were taken out when we got the initial permit, like when we bought the house. And we have six burners that we bought when four when we bought the house. And then two when we got the permit to make the basement into two separate apartments. Most of the electrical, it's all been upgraded. So, you know, when they did the work, I would imagine, you know, if there was any, if it wasn't taken out from the prior owner, it was all taken out. Because we did have city inspectors come in at that point, and you know, back in the 80s, they would have told us to take it out.
And we did remove the asbestos siding when we applied the vinyl.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Do you else have a question for the petitioner? No questions. Mr. Catino, do you have anything else you'd like to present to the board?
No, I appreciate that we're here because we've been trying to do this for a long time, at least to this point. You know, but there was a moratorium quite a few years ago. But we really appreciate any consideration you give us to make this a 7th unit building.
And in closing, we've always maintained all of our obligations with anything pertaining to the city, as well as having, I can't remember any type of disturbance with that amount of apartments, no police calls or anything like that.
That we're aware of.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
At this point, we will go into anyone who would like to speak in favor of the petition. So we'll go out to the people on the call to see if anyone would like to speak in favor.
So the instructions for those listening at home, if you would like to speak and you are using the Zoom client, you're going to access it by clicking on the Q&A function in your Zoom client, and you want to put in your full name and your residential address for the record, and then we will then liven up your microphone and allow you to speak. Alternatively, if you are dialed in by phone only, you're going to indicate that you want to raise your hand to speak by hitting *9 on your phone. Once again, *9 if you are a phone call only, and then the Q&A feature of the Zoom client if you wish to speak that way. We'll hold and wait for those. I'm going to actively look for those now.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, we had one come in, Frisco, but I believe he's waiting for the next case, so he just said, cancel that. Okay, let me search for anybody who's raised their hand. Usually just give a couple of minutes, because some folks technically have not done this, so we just want to give people ample time. Yep. Okay. We have a couple coming in. All right. Our first person is Peg Crow of 9 Hancock Street in Malden. Hang on one moment, Peg, while I liven up your mic. Go ahead, Peg, you are all set to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Mr. Catino did reach out to me through Lisa Cagno, and we were not able to connect, and sort of hearing what their plans are. And I did ring on a couple of the doorbells of the no one answered, but that's okay. I do think they have enough off-street parking, a nice big lot in the back. I am glad to see they're going to be cleaning up along the bike path, because that fence down was one of my concerns. So I want to make sure that that's in there. And so I am in favor of this one. I've not had any complaints from the neighbors on this property, or any calls about this hearing tonight. So for those reasons, I'm in favor of their seventh unit. Although I do know, I did ask the building commissioner, and anything over 4 is required to be sprinkled. So that has to be done, but so we're going to make sure that that is followed up on. So,
Yes, we already have plans for that. And I appreciate it, Peg. Thank you for your
Thank you.
support.
Is that it, Peg?
that's it. I'm in favor.
Thank you, Peg.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Peg. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor?
Next, we have Stephen Lindwall of 83 Jacob Street. Hang on one second while I unmute the mic. All right, go ahead, Councilor Lindwall.
All right, yeah, let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I know I was out along the bike path and seeing that, that fence is in bad shape on the back side there. So one of the issues we had along the bike path is that owners are pushing fences into the right of way. So I just want to make sure that there's a condition that, the fence be located on the property line and not encroach onto the MBTA right of way. So that's, otherwise it is a rough area. There's a lot of trash there. So if there is any, thing to the fence, that it be, that the owner confirm that the fence is located on their own property line and not within the MBTA right of way. So, so that would be my comment, but always great to have good neighbors. And I'd encourage you even to have a gate there so your tenants can get back there and that type of thing.
I was thinking more in terms that we would clean it up.
So we could, instead of like letting it build up over years like it does,
yeah,
we could periodically on a routine, go out there, weed whack it, and clean any cans and bottles and litter and make it look beautiful from either side.
yeah, no, that would be fantastic. It's we
Yes, the
appreciate having a neighbor like that. So supportive of that. So supportive of the project. So thank you. Great.
So we're not moving the fence out. It's going to be the same boundary as when the MBTA put it out
Okay.
years ago. So, and you'll see that it's right within, the building next to us, and so it's going to be the same footprint.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
You had your opportunity to speak. So now we're giving those that are in favor and in opposition an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor?
I am seeing and hearing none at this point.
Last call, anyone in favor? Seeing and hearing none, we declare that part of the hearing closed. At this opportunity, we'll take any testimony from anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this petition. Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone run? Okay, the last call for anyone in opposition. Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, do you have anything to read in opposition or, the, Very good, so there's nothing, you need to read, so that's good. If I could turn it over to you, can you take us through the staff report, please?
Did hear about the proposal. I've given you the breakdown, which is based on the plan. This is contained in the planning report and recommendation, which is incorporated here and by reference to the record and your decision. We have the breakdown of the existing 6 units, the locations, the square footage, the number of bedrooms, the proposed 7th unit. The plans that were submitted are identified here. I will not read those out loud. You all have copies of the plans. Again, these are incorporated in by reference into the record. The property is located in the residency zoning district. The existing and proposed continued multifamily dwelling is up to 3 stories is allowed by special permit in this district. As you heard, the property was originally a 4-family with a commercial storefront. In 1993, it was converted to residential storage. In 96, there was another special, that was by special permit. There was another special permit granted to convert the 4-family to a multifamily with 6 dwelling units. And then most recently, in 2004, this board granted a special permit to amend the condition regarding removal of asbestos siding. Direct abutters to the west are a 2-family and motor vehicle repair shop to the north. The abandoned Boston, Maine, Saugus Ranch Railroad right-of-way that's used as the Northern Strand Community Trail by a public multimodal path. To the east, a single-family dwelling. To the south, on the other side of Madison Street, a single-family dwelling used as a church rectory and a multifamily dwelling with 15 units. The Industrial 1 zoning district abuts the properties in the north, and surrounding land uses are industrial and business to the north of the trail. The Residence A zoning district begins on the other side of Madison Street, the southern side. Surrounding land uses are residential except for a church parking lot. In terms of dimensional controls, the property does not comply with current requirements for lot area, front yard and side yard setbacks. The property predates and is exempt from current zoning. Considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposal creates no new violations. It maintains the existing non-conformities. In terms of parking, the current use of the property is exempt from current zoning. It complies with applicable zoning to provide 9 spaces, that's 1.5 spaces per unit, but adding the proposed dwelling unit requires 1 additional parking space. 1 space is required per studio unit. So under the proposal, the dwelling will have 7 units and 11 bedrooms, and now will require a total of 11 parking spaces, 1 per bedroom. We heard about the off-street parking that's in the paved parking lot in the rear yard. The access driveway is non-conforming. And that's that. The finding you must make to grant a special permit, you would need to prove the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So provided that you are able to make that finding, the recommendation is to amend the special permit granted in case number 0403 and to grant a new special permit subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be multiple plans, which are incorporated here in by reference and except as modified by these conditions. 2, the maximum total number of bedrooms at the property is 11. The guest and 2 second-floor units may not be used as bedrooms. The porches, decks may not be enclosed. 4, install 11 parking spaces on site as per plan. I've also added to that condition paved parking area and driveway. 5, repair, replace sidewalks and curbing adjacent to the property to the satisfaction of the DPW director, including any damage during construction. 6, a temporary construction dumpster may be allowed. No permanent dumpster is allowed at the property. 7, maintain landscaped yard areas and open space as depicted on the plan, except where new pavement is proposed as per plan. I would recommend that you also, well, we'll get to another condition that has to be applied to the stage area. They're stating that the yard area is gonna remain grass. It's shown on the plan, I believe this was an existing conditions plan, so, if you want any specific thing, in terms of landscaping, you would need to indicate that now. Because again, this is seems to be part existing and part proposed. It's showing shrubs and things like that, but it's in brush, but I'm not sure. It also showed a tree line which has been removed, so.
It should maintain as much green space as possible.
Yes.
Maintain landscaped yard areas and open space as depicted on the plan. So I guess we would probably say except for trees and shrubs, because those have been removed, except for, that's the problem with, when I was out there, everything was, I was cut down, parts of it were cut down, so,
Can we say the yard should remain, the yard beyond the paving for parking, the light parking should remain, grass?
if you want to, yes, so maintain landscaped yard areas and open space. As grass, or with, you want to say with lawn or something like that, or does it have to be grass? Could be plantings or things like that, or,
I'd like to see
Yeah.
grass.
okay, as grass, okay, as depicted on the plan. I think we should say except where, trees and shrubs were removed, because it won't actually be part of this plan. 8, install sprinkler system. 9, install vinyl fence along northern property line with gate and western and eastern property lines abutting residential property. And then 10, I would also recommend a condition, maintain clean portion of Northern Stream Community Trail Bike to the Sea that abuts property. So that would, they said they would be responsible for litter and vegetation, so if we say maintain clean, that will cover that.
Okay? Is that it, Michelle?
Yeah.
Have any questions for Michelle on, her staff report? No?
No questions. I will note one thing if I could. If he mentioned putting a patio in the front yard, if you say it has to be grass, then he's not gonna be able to do that. That's not shown on the plan, the patio, it's shown as grass.
Is it?
Both parts of the,
I thought the deck was more for the new.
the deck is in the back,
Right.
right, but the conditions of maintain landscaped yard areas and open space as depicted on the plan, and I added as grass. I thought he was gonna put the patio in the front, but maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, that's what we wanted to do.
Just part, when you're walking up to the house, the portion to the left that's against the unit that we want to convert.
So where are you looking to put this patio?
So to the left, when you walk, looking at the house, when you walk in, there's a little pocket in there that shows where between the front porch and the existing residential storage space, there's a little area there, probably about 10 by 12. And we wanted to fence that in so that the studio apartment would have their own little exclusive outdoor area, like maybe a little coffee patio table.
That would be on
Huh?
Madison Street, not in the backyard.
Yes.
Right.
But that is another condition.
Okay, I mean, we could just add to 7, I said except for trees and shrubs will remove, and except for patio and front yard.
Okay, if it's easier
Okay,
to
yeah.
do that, but if I
Yeah.
just struck on without a.
Well, no, I just,
Too.
yeah, I didn't know if you wanted, so the backyard is gonna have to be grass.
Right.
The
Yes.
front, they can put, you couldn't put pavers all over the backyard.
No,
You
no,
No.
we had no plans to.
I'll add that as part of the exception to 7, patio and front yard.
That'd be good. Anyone have any questions? Eric Henry?
Yes, thank you, Chair. With regards to this patio, can we stipulate that it be constructed with pervious pavers or a pervious substance?
It's going to be pavers.
Okay.
That's
So it'll say except for trees and shrubs that were removed, it should say from rear yard and pervious patio in front yard.
Okay, any other questions for Michelle? Yes,
I'd like to make a motion if I could.
you certainly may.
Okay.
Speak up, please.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to make a motion to grant it with the 9 conditions we have. 10, sorry. The 10 conditions.
Okay, Diane's made a motion for the recommendation of staff with 10 conditions. Eric will push.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Eric seconded the motion. Yes, please.
Diane Duha,
Yes.
Charles Ferguson,
Yes.
Dwyer Stephanie,
Yes.
Brenda Gray,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Aaron Bush,
Yes.
Henry Susie,
Yes.
Chuck Iova.
Yes. Petition has been granted with conditions. Thank you very much and good luck with it.
Thank you. I want to thank
Thank
each
you.
and every one of you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, the next hearing we're gonna hear will be 190 Commercial Street at 188 Commercial Street. Just like to announce that Lisa Gray was not in attendance at the original hearing back in August of 2019, so she will not be participating in this hearing, and we will proceed with 8 members. Give us 1 second, and then Michelle will read the notice.
The Malvern Planning Board will hold a virtual public hearing at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 26, 2020, tabled on August 14, 2019, on the petition of Jeffrey Wu on behalf of Plaza 188 Associates LLC, made under sections 12.12.030, 12.28.010E, and 12.28010J of Chapter 12 Revised Ordinances of 2020, formerly sections 300.3.4.12, 700.1.3.2 and 700.1.7 of Chapter 12 Revised Ordinances of 1991 for a special permit and to amend the special permit granted in case number 11-13 to allow restaurant use in the industrial 2 zoning district, namely a food court style restaurant with approximately 12,000 square feet and 252 seats in the portion of the building known as 190 Commercial Street, at the property known as number 184 Commercial Street, Malden, Mass., also known by City of Malden Assessors Parcel ID 055-232-211. The petition plans are available for public review on the city website, and the permit number CMID 03011-2019.
Thank you, Michelle. Is the petitioner present?
Yes,
Is that-
I am here. Board members, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jay Duker. I reside at 179 Trenton Street, East Boston. And I'm here speaking on behalf of Mr. Wu, the owner and operator of the Super 88 Market at this address, and owner and operator of the proposed food court restaurant. I'm also here tonight with Giles Ham and Jennifer Connors from Vanessa Associates, well-respected traffic engineering outfit in the region. Mr. Ham and Ms. Connors will speak in a moment regarding the traffic and parking concerns. But I'd just like a brief recap of why we're here. This board tabled this last August because the site had some parking. There was some concerns about parking deficiency. There was some issues with non-compliance with the Chapter 91 license. There was some storage trailers that were in violation. All of those issues have been rectified and resolved. And we're here tonight to again pick up where we left off, if the board will allow us to do that. The proposal was to convert an 11,000 square foot retail tenant space to a food court restaurant. Mr. Wu, the owner and operator, has 35 years experience, and he owns and operates several food courts on the East Coast. The food court will employ approximately 25 to 30 employees. The food court is a standalone business. However, Mr. Wu would welcome the option to create a common passageway from the Super 88 Market to the food court for the convenience of the shoppers that use the market. The special permit criteria, we would like the board to consider that this proposal, we feel, does not increase the non-conforming nature of the site. There'll be no alcohol, no drive-through, no queuing of vehicles, and no change in the footprint. The proposal will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. The proposed use is not in conflict with any other uses on the site. No other tenant will be aggrieved by this proposal. The proposal provides a convenience to the surrounding businesses in residential areas by providing low-cost dining and takeout. The proposal serves the public good. It will create jobs and will generate substantial meals tax for the city. At this point, I'd like to hand off to Mr. Ham and Ms. Connors from Vanessa Associates to speak to you about the traffic and parking concerns. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Giles Ham, managing partner with Vanessa Associates. Michelle, do you have the ability to add our presentation that was sent over to you today?
No. The PowerPoint, you
Yes.
sent an email with an attachment that was a PowerPoint.
Yes.
The board has copies of that in your package. It looks like this. It says proposed food court.
Okay. Then I'll just walk you through that outline to the board. So again, good evening. From our hearing a year ago, I remember there were three things that we needed to do to satisfy the board. And those were update the parking counts that we had done, reduce seating, as well as commit to providing a traffic monitoring study of the parking post-development so that we could show to the city that the parking does work after we're opened up. And we've really committed and have done all three of those things. So when you think of a food court, I would ask you to think of your own experience of going to a food court. Typically, you're already at the site and the food court is really a secondary to your primary trip. And that's what will happen here is you'll go to Super 88 and then you'll go over to the food court to grab lunch or dinner. And that's what we think will happen here. We certainly will add some traffic and parking to the site. We're not saying that. But overall, the food court is really a complementary use to what's already on that site. So if you go to the, if you just flip a couple pages in, you'll see a chart. So in August of 2019 and February of 2020, we reviewed the occupied spaces on site on a weekday between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. and on a Saturday between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. So we counted every space and determined whether it was occupied or unoccupied. During those periods, the least amount of spaces that were vacant on the site was 123 spaces, and that happened 11 a.m. in the morning. But most of the time, over 140 spaces are available. And I think if you've been to the site, you would see that there's a lot of vacant spaces there. And a lot of the time, over 50% of the spaces are vacant there today. And we're talking pre-COVID, obviously. The next slide just really shows some bar charts of the same thing, where the supply out there is 298 spaces. And again, most of the time, a lot of those spaces are vacant. So we've just provided a bar chart for the weekday and a bar chart on Saturday. And you can see on Saturday, most of that parking lot is not full. With regard to the parking demand, the city requirement is 138 spaces. And that's really pretty reasonable if we were a freestanding restaurant or a freestanding, food court. But we've estimated that up to 30% of our customer base would come from what's already out there in terms of the Super 88 and the other tenants that are there. So we think if you just reduce the city's demand or requirement by 30%, you kind of match with probably more likely what's going to happen out there. And we've estimated at 252 seats that we would conservatively need about 100 spaces. And again, on a weekday and Saturday, there's well more than 100 spaces available on that site. The proponent has also committed to a significant seat reduction of like 40%. So we're proposing to reduce the seating capacity down from 252 seats down to 154 seats. So that's a significant concession, really helps alleviate the concerns relative to parking. And really just in summary of some of our recommendations, all of our work's been peer reviewed by your consultant, and they've asked us to do some pedestrian signal and curbing and wheelchair ramp upgrade at the Commercial Street site driveway intersection, which we have committed to doing. And again, we recommend that 6 months after we're open, that we would go out and monitor all the parking from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. on a weekday and Saturday. And then we would submit that data to the city planner for review and just documentation of the after effect of the food court. The other things that we've just committed to was typical transportation demand management measures, which is having a coordinator on site, promote carpooling, promote public transportation, and we'll also have bicycle racks on site. So in summary, this project will not be detrimental to the neighborhood and can be constructed as planned with minimal impact on traffic and parking in the area. Thank you.
Mr. Ham, question for you. The team provided a table of projected diners at the new proposed restaurant. What percentage of the people shopping do you expect to make up that volume that you've listed?
I couldn't quite hear your question, but I think you're asking for the percent of our parking demand that would come from the existing customers at the shopping center.
No, what I'm asking is, it says here about the proposed food court is intended to use, how many customers are supposed to be using the proposed food court?
Okay, you want to answer that with
It'll be, typically, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're saying that this is going to be used by people who are already at the supermarket. What percentage of
some extent
those that are in the market during lunch and during dinner do you expect to eat at the super court each day, at the food court each day?
It'd be, go ahead, Giles.
Well, you can add to my response. So the industry has a kind of internal capture of traffic and shared parking within a development, And we looked at that, that methodology for internal capture, and we've estimated, our estimate on the industry standard is about 30% of the food court customers could come from people that are already within the retail area, which is Super 88, and there's several other tenants in there, that it makes sense that they would go to lunch or go dinner when some people are working there. We look at this use as a complementary use to what's already there. And you can add to that, Jay, if you want to.
Yeah, typically the most busiest hours for the food court will be Saturday afternoon. And approximately 60% of the people that use the Super 88 market will dine in the restaurant. That's where we expect the heaviest use. It's customary in that community that people, they do their shopping as a family on Saturday, and dining is part of that experience.
Okay, so, but based on the numbers that you provided, that would mean during the week, there's going to be 1,000 people on site that are going to use your restaurant or your proposed restaurant at 30%, and that would be 500 on site for the weekend. And that's just those that are already there. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that the people who are going to use the Super 88 market on a Saturday, half of them will be on site to use over half of them will be on site to use the restaurant. I don't think it's cumulative. I think it's just that people are already there on the site, and they'll also use the food court during the afternoon on a Saturday.
Okay, but you see what I'm getting at? That the numbers that you're expecting to drive the restaurant are significantly high.
I'm not sure where you're getting 1,000 from.
What's that?
I'm not sure where you're getting the 1,000 attendees at
the 300 people you expect to come in, divide by 30%.
If I may, I think you may be looking at it cumulatively. So on any given day, if the restaurant, which is not there today, whatever the traffic impact is today, on a Saturday afternoon, 60% of the people that are already there are going to be the people that are going to use the restaurant and not create any further traffic coming to the site.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is that's already 500 people, and how many do you expect come in a car? 2, 3?
We would expect 4 per car on a Saturday. On a Saturday.
Okay, so that would be 125 spaces required.
Yeah, I'm not sure if, I don't know if we did a count on the Super 88. But all I'm saying is we did a count on the expected number of patrons that will utilize the restaurant. There's a chart there that spells out peak times, and that includes the people that are coming from the market on any given day.
Right, and then you have the Social Security Administration, you have the laundromat, you have the insurance company, the hair products company, Sunsetter, and all those other people taking up spaces.
Right.
I think if you look at the projections that are on a table, lunchtime between 11:30 and 2, they expect about 200 customers to dine into the food court. but in a 2.5 hour span, 200 customers.
Right, and another 100 doing takeout or
Correct.
delivery.
Yep.
What's the breakout between delivery and takeout?
We do not expect to do much delivery. I don't have that real hard number. Because we're assuming that it's just going to be local people for the most part. It's not really a destination place except for the area, the residential, the businesses, the people who are already have tenant spaces in the mall. Those are the projected figures. We don't anticipate much takeout, less than 10%.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you did the traffic study, was it one day in August or one day in February, or did you do cumulative over a couple of weeks?
If you go back to, if you remember the original meeting we had, we did a Wednesday in August and a Saturday in August. And I believe the comment was that the Social Security office may close early on Wednesday. So in February, we did counts on a Tuesday and a Saturday, and they were fairly consistent. So in total, we have 4 days of data that we presented to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Tawadich?
I was wondering, when the employees hired by the restaurant, does they have like assigned parking, or they don't have the same like the customer?
I think your question is there assigned parking?
Oh, yeah, for the employee who work for the restaurant.
So my understanding is there's not assigned parking out there today. One thing we could do is to suggest that all the employees park in the far end of the lot in order to free up the spaces closest to the businesses for the customers. So that's one thing that we could do, or you could condition.
So how many employees do you expect in the restaurant? How many employees?
So the employee count of the restaurant expected to be, is it 25 to 30 employees? And quite frankly, a lot of those employees, based upon the Super 88 experience, actually live in the neighborhood and walk to the business and do not drive or park.
Okay, thank you.
If I may also add, most of the employees that work in the Super 88 will actually work at the food court as well, preparing food. So there'll be shared employees between the food court and the Super 88.
Can you detail that a little bit more? How does that work?
So right now, the Super 88 market has their own kitchen, and they do a lot of food preparation for the goods that they sell. The food court basically has prepared food as well, and which is heated and warmed for the most part. But that food would be prepared at the Super 88 kitchen and brought over to the restaurant on a daily basis. Most of the food.
Is that a complication?
I didn't understand that. So they're not going to, could you say that again? They're not going to continue to do that?
So no, the Super 88 market will continue to prepare their own food for sale. They cut up fruits and meats or whatever they sell at the market. They prepare it and they sell it at the market. That's what they do now. They will also, if the proposed food court were to be approved, some of the food that the food court would be selling would be prepared at the Super 88 market for sale and to be heated at the food court, in addition to other foods that will be delivered to the food mart as well. So, but the question was about employees, and what I was trying to make a point is, a lot of the employees, because Mr. Wu is going to be running both operations, the employees are shared to some degree. That was my point.
The shared employee, so you're saying the food court will prepare food and then they'll be sold at the supermarket?
No.
The other way around?
No,
The other way around.
yes, correct, Michelle.
So they'll be prepared at the Super 88 and brought over to the food court.
Correct.
So then what are the 15 or the 15 kiosks? I thought those were all individual kitchen kiosks.
The kiosks are independent. They're all going to be owned by Mr. Wu. They will all have their own food source and food delivery. Some of the food that they sell will be prepared at the 88 market, just to be heated and warmed and out the door or out to the table. When people come for a quick meal, they'll be prepared meals, basically. Mr. Wu intends on operating all 15 kiosks with each kiosk having different food types. I didn't mean to confuse. The question really was about employees, and I wanted to make a point that the employees are going to be shared. So it isn't like even though there's 25 to 30 employees at the food court, some of those will be shared by the Super 88 market, actually preparing food as any restaurant would. They would be preparing it at the Super 88 market.
And then what do you walk over into the kiosk and bring the food?
It would be, that would have to be approved by the Board of Health to some degree, because there would have to be two separate licenses, CV license for the food court, and the Board of Health is going to have to approve that. If that's something that can't be approved, then all the food will be delivered to the kiosks, and the food will be prepared at the kiosks. I was only trying to make a point that the plan is to try to share the employees and utilize the large kitchen at the Super 88 market to reduce the number of employees.
Do you happen to know, and it's okay if you don't, but do you happen to know how many employees are in the whole plaza?
I don't have the number of employees at the Super 88. I don't know that number.
Well, I'm talking about the whole plaza. In each of the businesses at the plaza, do you have an estimate of how many are employees that are showing up here every day, and then how many are associated with customers of all the businesses in that plaza?
So there'll be 25 to 30 employees working in the food court. Some of them will be, so for example, during the busiest times, all 25 to 30 are going to be working there. During the slow period, some of those employees are going to be back at the Super 88 market working counter, stocking, and preparing food to be sold again during the busier time at the food court.
Right, now, okay, move over one. How many are in the washer, the laundromat?
How many employees? I don't know. I was in there today. I seen 3 people working in there.
Okay, so you don't know how many are in the Social Security Administration, in the Dunkin' Donuts, in the Brookline Savings?
I do not.
Or okay, fair enough. Michelle, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just on that note, you said Mr. Wu won the supermarket as well? Did I hear you say that?
Yes, that's correct. Mr. Jeffrey Wu owns and operates the Super 88 market, and he's the proposed operator. He's the operator of the proposed food court as well. Yes.
Is he on this call?
No, he's not on this call.
Okay, so he could get us that info on the employees.
On the number of employees at the Super 88?
Yeah, I was just, it's the same petitioner, I was wondering if he might have that handy. But he's not on the call. So
He's not on the
I didn't know if
call.
he- Okay.
He's not on the call.
Well, I guess my question really just, I guess I'm more confused. When we first heard about the food court, I knew there was a connection. But I thought it was, you know, like a typical food court, like you mentioned, seeing there's different tenants, and it actually says that tenant, space to be built out by tenant under separate permit. This was the floor plan. They're not different brands. You couldn't have a Dunkin' Donuts in one, a sandwich shop in another. It's really all, you pretty much, I think that it's largely, if not all, food that the supermarket's already preparing. So it's
To
true,
some
or is
degree, you got to remember, there are going to be 15 kiosks, like the plan says. Each kiosk is going to have a different style of food. There'll be Indian, Chinese, Taiwan, American, Italian. So Mr. Wu is going to own all of them. And to some extent, some of the foods can be prepared. Some foods are special foods that'll be prepared at the kiosk. But it's a standalone food court for the most part, and each kiosk is going to sell their own brand, their own style of food. And some of the food will be prepared at the Super 88 kitchen to share the resources. My whole point in bringing that up was to let the board know that these employees that come to the food court are also going to be shared with the Super 88, which would kind of lessen the impact of employee parking. I did speak to Mr. Wu last week as far as the employees. To his knowledge, he told me there was about 4 vehicles. People generally walk, they live in the neighborhood. There is some carpooling, and he believes there's not more than 4 vehicles that come at any given time with employees.
Okay, but he is gonna rent each kiosk out, right?
He's going to
Because
own and operate. He's going to own and operate each kiosk himself.
So he's not gonna, they're not separate tenants?
No. He will own and operate each kiosk. The only difference being each kiosk will have its own brand of and style of food. Sort of
So
like an
he'll
international, excuse me?
So he'll hire the employees that are gonna work there.
Those will all be his employees, yes, correct.
So this
He'll
just
have
says
complete control over the employees.
So this just says unit tenant will file their work under separate application is not correct. Each unit, he's doing it all, and he's operating it all, and he's hiring everybody.
Yes, that's correct.
So he's not, you wouldn't get a chain or a brand.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle, can you give us a quick update unless someone has a question? Charlie Ferguson, go ahead.
I just wanted to revisit the parking if we could. So if we start with the slide that says summary, you walked us through that on basically the city requirement being 138 spaces, and I think I understand the 30% internal reduction being basically the overflow from the Super 88 to the market there, or to the
Right.
Okay. So that's that 30%. So granted that that 30% are the same customers, so we're going with 97 spaces. If we go back to the weekday and the weekend observations, the 2 prior slides, so if the capacity is 294, I mean, simple math, it's anything that exceeds anything at 200 parking spots already taken up. Just want to make sure I understand that the observations that were taken were, this is the current state of the parking lot with, so if we're gonna say that 97 additional spaces will be, if we're looking at the weekday one, basically from 5:30 on, we're exceeding 200 spaces. So that would exceed the capacity of the lot. And
Yeah,
if we're
so-
looking at Saturday,
So actually, the 200 spaces are actually what's vacant. Those are available spaces. If you're looking at the bar charts,
yes,
those
ma'am.
are
So there's-
those are all available spaces. So, you know, I think the data suggests that it does work, and we're very confident it's going to work. And that's, you know, we felt that we could give the board a comfort level of that, you know, post development, and we've done this before in other communities. We'll go out and we'll do these same exact parking surveys and submit it to the city to show how the parking works.
Okay, thank you. I was taking that as taking spaces, not.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
I have a question about that.
Yep, go ahead.
My question about that, offer to do the parking study. What would happen if you do the parking study and you're deficient even more of the parking? There's a parking overflow, there's a parking issue, you're not able to meet parking on site. What would you propose the city do? Revoke the permit, or would you be willing to come back into this board to amend the permit, to reduce the restaurant, or how would that work if the results of the study?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think we want this to work. We want it to work for the client, and we want it to work for the community. We want it to work for this board. If we have made a big concession to reduce the seats down to from 252 down to 154. If there's a comfort level with this board that maybe we would reduce that number a little bit more, we're willing to do that. But I think, you know, what's going to drive a lot of the parking is the seats, because if you can't go in and seat, you're not going to go there and eat. So we would like to keep the 154, but if this board's not comfortable with that, we can go with a lower number and then monitoring and show you it works. And then we would have to come back to you again if we wanted to exceed the seating. So I'm comfortable with the 154 number. I only suggest to you if this board is not comfortable with that, we're amenable to talking about that. But I'm confident that it's going to work. In any event, we're going to monitor and report back to you. And if you want us to come back and present to this board, I think we can probably do that as well.
No, I don't question that you would watch it, and that you could count it, and that you could even come back and present it. But I'm not sure, you know, legally what the board would be in a position to do. I mentioned the revocation of a permit, but the board can't revoke a permit. The building commissioner would somehow need to have some sort of grounds to revoke it, or I guess you could agree to come back, but we would also need you to agree to amend the permit and somehow reduce it. I mean, it wouldn't, just to come back and do a check-in, I don't think it's gonna, you know, work if it ends up there's an issue. If there's no issue, of course, you check in and everything's fine, but I think that the bigger issue is, you know, this board issues a permit. It's not a temporary permit. It's an actual permit before it's a registry, and it's binding, and unless somebody appeals it in 20 days or you're in violation of it and the city could, you know, revoke it, it's out there and it stands. So I'm not sure.
And I understand your point, and that goes with a lot of projects, whether it's parking or whether it's traffic. You know, you're not in the position to revoke a permit. So I was just suggesting to you, I think the 154 seats is reasonable. If someone is not as comfortable as that as we are, then we're amenable to talking about that. And that's really the only suggestion I have in terms of your question.
Michelle, if I may, I understand, you know, the mechanism is not, you know, a good idea. How would you reduce the seating? I think it's important to know that we also need to get a license from the license board, a CV license. And they'll also put a number on the number of seating that serves the public good. if for some reason this doesn't work out and Giles does his post report, the license board could also reduce the number of seats to, make sure that this is serving a public good. So we think it's a good project, and we want it to work. We want the city to be comfortable, and we'll be willing to make concessions as far as any conditions by this board or the license board. We don't want to go in there and not have it work and have parking issues. That's not our idea. We think it's going to be a benefit to the neighborhood, and we think it's a good project.
Would you just mention the license board? The license board here involved in grant liquor licenses. Are you talking about that, or I think it's the Board of Health that would grant the CD license?
Correct. I'm sorry, it's the Board of Health in the city of Malden. Correct.
Talking about that. Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Go ahead, Pat Hayes.
I just, I was looking back at my notes, excuse me, my notes from the last hearing, and I realized and recall that there was a lot of comments in opposition related to complying with the 2011 issues that were flagged in the original special permit. And I know you said that a lot of the storage trailers were removed, the site was cleaned up. Tell me what was done about the water access to the Malden River and getting to the river and that whole area back there. Because as I recall, that was a real problem as well.
So the owner hired a contractor. They restored the road that runs along the river. They cut back the brush. They repainted the duck trail, the little duck feet that comes from the sidewalk on Commercial Street to the river. They replaced the signage. They installed a new bench. I know that, her name escapes me from the DEP, sent a letter, I know Michelle has had it, that they are now, have stated that it's now in compliance with the license. I should tell the board that after that was done, and the road restored, there was some incident, there was a washout of part of the road. The owner was immediately made aware of. He made some remedial, he put some crushed stone there. He's having his engineer look at that and to try to determine why that happened, to make a repair so it won't happen again. But I would ask the board to look at this as just a maintenance issue. The owner is working on it right now.
So you referenced that, you said that there was a letter that the DEP sent to the city saying that the site is in compliance?
Yes, it was actually an email from the folks at the DEP.
Pat, I was gonna ask, after we got some questions where they led with parking, I was gonna ask Michelle to give us a status of all the items.
Okay,
that were-
I got ahead, sorry.
And I was gonna have her give a summary of those issues also. I believe most of them have been rectified. And I think the biggest issue is the deficiency in the parking and that stuff. So, but certainly anyone has any questions about stuff from that notes, I went back with mine too and didn't realize how thick the notes were from all the testimony we had heard from people with Friends of the River and different people last time also. But if we don't cover it in there, certainly bring it up again.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Does anyone else have any other questions for the petitioner? If you don't, I'll mention one of the things. I think there's a significant deficiency in the parking. I have a real problem with that. I'm not sure, looking at the numbers that you proposed as the customers, if you try to triangulate that back to the number of people on site that would be using, presuming that your numbers on the customer demand is correct. I question, what the percentage is of people who are gonna be on site and the number of parking spots that would be required to accommodate that number of people. And I just really question, this whole sharing employee, process. That's not typically common, that we have food, prepared in one place and then it's, shuttled to another, that I'm aware of. Another thing that we haven't really brought up, we're doing a special permit for the location. Right? If Mr. Wu decides to shut his kiosks down, then we're stuck with an 11,500 square foot restaurant that can go in there. That might not be sharing employees with Super 88. That might not be driven by the percentage of people that are already on the locus at any given time. And in that worst case scenario, where do those people park, the overstock park? They're going to park on Adams Street, they're going to park on Pearl Street, they're going to park on Thatcher Street, and they're going to reach into the Ward 2 area, because you can't park on Commercial Street, either side of Commercial. So I just really question, in that worst case scenario, where do these people go? And that's certainly not in favor of the neighborhood if all of a sudden they're getting encroached on from a plaza that had a 24% deficiency in the required parking. So that's one of the things I'm struggling with. I certainly want to see you guys, if you do get approved, succeed. But I'm just worried about some of the numbers that are being presented. And I'm also worried that in the event that Mr. Wu moves on and it becomes a different type of restaurant, what are we left with? And how do our residents, what do they have to do to handle that? So
I would ask the board, to condition the special permit to the ownership of Mr. Wu and the relationship between that restaurant and the Super 88. And if Mr. Wu leaves the scene, then so does the special permit. I believe that you could do that. And a point well taken. I understand your concerns about the future, what could happen. As with any project, we're giving you what we're doing today, which we think it'll work with the data and the traffic engineer's data. And that's our plan moving forward for the future.
And I would just add that in terms of other restaurants, that to some extent, the number of parking space, the number of seats we have at the food court is what drives the parking. And so we've reduced that dramatically.
Right, but you're saying all the people are already on site.
Well, if they're already on site, then right, but if they're already on site, they're represented in the numbers that we counted there. So, the people that are already there at the Super 88, they're not representing new parking demand to the plaza. And I'm not suggesting that there's no parking demand here. We think there will be additional parking, but I think our surveys are pretty clear. And I think I've been out there many, many times, and I'm sure your own personal experiences. When you go out there, you see a lot of vacant spaces, and that should give you comfort that there's plenty of parking out there, because there is.
I had a question. So I had looked back at my notes as well. So you previously had presented that you were going to lease the kiosk. So you're stating now there's no lease, there's no sublease, there's no license. They're all owned and operated by the owner of the supermarket.
That's correct. There'll be one license for Mr. Wu to operate all 15 kiosks.
Okay. So he won't lease them out to anybody?
No. All the employees will be his employees. He'll have control over the employees and everything that goes on in the food court.
you need the 15 kiosks?
Um,
You changed the, and is that something that was part of the larger seating? That sounds like a lot if it's really just,
You know, I don't, we would be, we would be fine with that. The thing to remember is the whole perimeter sort of is all kitchen. We could reduce the number of kiosks. It's kind of the atmosphere where you walk up and you got, you know, people who from different countries go up and there's a certain food type of food that people like. That's the whole ambiance of the food court. We could reduce that, but it would still, you know, it's still the same square footage, and we'd have no problem reducing the number of kiosks. But we would hope, you know, we would have some kiosks for that ambiance and special effect.
just because you mentioned it, you said it's all kitchen, so now maybe I'm not following. So there are 15 separate kitchens.
That's correct, yes.
But then earlier, didn't you say they're using the Super 88 kitchen?
To some degree, to cook some common food dishes will be prepared. And some other foods like salads, for example, can be prepared at the Super 88 market that could serve all the kiosks. Other foods are gonna have to be delivered to the kiosks and prepared and cooked on site. Other foods are gonna be prepared and they'll only have to be warmed. And that way they can be sold pretty quickly. And these are foods that will be prepared on a daily basis. And that's where I was originally answering the question about employees, where they're really going to be shared employees, because the employees in the Super 88 prepare a lot of food every day, all day. So where Mr. Wu is going to control both venues, there'll be a lot of shared employees preparing food.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Charlie.
Raise my hand.
Ferguson?
Yeah, this wouldn't address all issues, because there's still the issue, Chuck, I totally agree with, parking being the main issue. And the thought, kind of going on trust that the 25 to 30 employees would be both food court employees and Super 8 employees. But now that so this is just one piece of it, but now that the seats are down to 154 and the required number of spaces is 138, even if one person took one car and it was at full capacity at 138, it doesn't address all issues. But and it also, there's the issue of square footage, because we don't go by, and so that the issue is still there, Chuck, of you saying if we grant a permit that it would still be a restaurant permit, and then they could do the business for have a restaurant permit and do whatever they want. So I don't know if it's possible to have the conditions of just the relationship of a certain number of seats and a certain way that they run the restaurant be the way that we address the parking issue, but more of an idea than anything. If they are close to 138 required spots and they have 154 seats, and they said they're amenable to reducing the number of seats, there are other issues with employees and more spots that they would require but still, if they had 138 customers and each one of them took a car, 138 spots that they are required to take up. So I know that the square footage is still an issue in the restaurant, and I don't know if you have a condition to actually say it's the relationship between this restaurant and the number of seats that they have, but just a thought, because after they reduced it to close to the number of parking spots that would be required. It's a thought that I had.
Yeah, no, but one of the things, and I believe it was in Michelle's staff report, if you take into all the other tenants in the plaza, right, and just exclude the restaurant, which requires 138 spaces, I believe they're at, as of 294 spaces available. Right? if you take all the other tenant usages, I think that leaves only 45 or 47 spots available for this, for the restaurant portion. And if our zoning is 12 spaces per 1,000 feet, right, that would mean this 11,500 square foot restaurant would need to be 4,000 square feet.
Right.
Right, I mean, that's just based on what and then it would meet the parking requirements.
So that is the,
But then that leaves 7,500 square feet vacant and not used, or, however they would end up working at it. There's different scenarios based on what would or could go in there and how they divvy up those final 40 or 50 parking spots.
okay.
You know, themselves that speak to the fact of conditioning based on a specific tenant or person. We have done it in the past. It's come back to bite us a lot of times. We don't tend to do that because of the issues and the ramifications that we've run into in the past, conditioning on the use upon a specific tenant. But Michelle, you can speak to
Yeah,
that.
and if I could also, the parking is based on the square footage, and it contemplates how many seats, how many customers, how many employees. So I had a question. I see basically from the seating that you pretty much took the original seating chart and you just whited out some seats. So,
Well, I don't,
you know, you removed some of them. So
Yeah.
there's still kind of the same configuration, but now there's like some empty spaces. So this is 154 seats, but how many customers that might not be sitting? Because, you know, you could have, last time I think you said you'd have a delivery service, so there'd be a parking spot for the delivery driver. How many customers, is that chart? Was the chart that you gave us the customers? Was that all customers or was that just seated customers?
that was
Did you give
all,
any-
that was all customers at any one given time.
Okay, so that answers that, because I don't want to get too fixated on number of seats, tying it to number of parking spaces, because that's not actually, you know, the way the law is written, and it's not written that way for a reason, but like I said, the reasons that we've all been talking about. Thank you. So, okay, so that was just a comment question that I asked you, so thank you. Do you want me to go through,
Well, if no one else has any other questions for the petitioners on the parking, if you could give us a general summary on the reasons why we tabled it a year ago and what the status of each of those are now, like with respect to particularly to the river, and to some of the any other. I'm sure there are folks on the line that are keen on hearing for how that, tracking with the river. I'm sharing Christine Hoff's email.
yeah. Thank you. So, the board tabled, you did hold a public hearing in August of 2019. You received public testimony from petitioner, other members of the public. The board closed and tabled the public hearing in its decision to allow petitioner to address outstanding items or issues with the proposal of the property, specifically, 1, the parking deficiency created by the proposal, 2, the maintenance of the public access area for the Malden River in compliance with the Mass DEP regulations and recommendations, 3, to remove 3 storage trailers located on the property, and 4, compliance with all conditions of previous special permit. You did note specifically to schedule the hearing to reopen only after all matters were addressed. So, going to go through additional information. So all matters were addressed. Maybe not to the satisfaction of the board or myself, but they were addressed. They made an attempt to address all of them. And specifically, I'm talking about the parking deficiency. So they provided information. You'll have to determine whether you think it addresses the deficiency. The other areas were easier to itemize, whether they had been addressed or not. So first, we did have their response to the city's peer review of the traffic impact study. They had submitted comments on August 14th, 2019, the date of the hearing, in response to the city's peer review comments. So September 16th, 2019, our city peer reviewer, Ken Petralia, reviewed those comments and provided a new report. So his initial report was dated, and you should have a copy. Everybody should have all the original materials that were received and submitted at the last hearing, and also all the new materials. So if anybody doesn't have anything that I'm talking about, so the original peer review was dated July 11, 2019. The follow-up letter, and that's from Kenneth Petralia, the follow-up letter is dated September 16, 2019. So the peer reviewer looked at their response from August and itemized whether his questions and concerns were addressed, whether they provided the requested information. After that, and that's here, I won't read that into the record, but that's incorporated here and by reference into the record. The outstanding issue at the end of that peer review follow-up was parking supply. The comment was, show that the additional parking demand generated by the project can be accommodated by the existing supply. So the peer reviewer stated the parking supply is not complete for two reasons. The weekday survey was conducted 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on a Wednesday when Social Security offices were closed at noon. It resulted in uncaptured parking on other weekdays. Second, the Saturday countdown was conducted from 11 to 3, which didn't capture the late afternoon evening diners. So further study was required to show additional parking demand generated so the project could be accommodated by the existing supply. So that was the outstanding issue. As of that, so the follow-up to that was the petitioner submitted a memorandum called Supplemental Parking Assessment. That's dated March 4th, 2020. And it's regarding parking supply and demand. You have a copy of that. That's a 3-page memo from VAI. It looks like this. They've incorporated most of this into that PowerPoint presentation, the numbers, et cetera. However, when the city peer, now, two things happened. COVID happened, but we also, as we were receiving information from the petitioner on the status of the other outstanding items, the river, the trailers, et cetera, we had never received this. So we didn't receive this till July. They thought they had sent it. We didn't have any record of receiving it. So it's dated March 2020, and we received it towards the end of July. And the city peer reviewer began to look at it then. He had questions, not so much about these numbers, but specifically a question that one of the board members had asked, where this memo said, basically, in a nutshell, what it said was existing parking supply will be adequate for the proposed food court. The peer reviewer, the main question he had was, how much parking do you expect the food court to use? Because we knew the zoning required 138, but we wanted to know how much parking. We were seeing the numbers showing how much was vacant on these days, but we wanted to know how much was used or expected to be used. So in response, the petitioner told us 100 spaces. That was the number that we heard. In response to that, the peer reviewer asked, where are you getting the 100 from? What is that based on? And in response to that, the petitioner submitted, and this was referenced in here, the IPE parking manual, which are certain standardized information. The peer reviewer did not think that information was reliable to use, for several reasons, specifically, the data points were from a single hour, noon to 1 or 2 hours, and it wasn't comparable to the 8-hour period of actual data that they had provided. Also, they didn't think the 9 data points were a good indication, and so the lack of data points in the few number of studies. So he didn't think that was reliable. So we asked the petitioner, can you give us any other information? You know, perhaps a business plan, customer projection, something to support this 100. That's when they did submit those customer projections, which is that chart that you all have. It looks like this, the cover projection. In this chart is where they also projected the reduction in seats to 154. So unfortunately, this came in kind of late, and so we've been back and forth almost on a daily basis trying to sort through this and get the questions answered. So we did today receive a response that answered some of the outstanding questions that the peer reviewer had. One was the actual number of parking spaces, because the March memo said there were 294. As the parking plan shows 300, we wanted to know how many parking spaces. So they come in and told us they verified the count, 298 spaces. Not counting cart spaces and not counting 2 hatch spaces near the river that DEP requires them, so 298. So that just came in today, so I did not, the staff report was not updated to reflect that. So the actual number is 298. In terms of the 100 parking spaces, we again asked if there are a reliable basis for the projection. They referenced the parking manual again and went through a lot of the information. I won't go through it again, talking about it. Freestanding restaurant versus, I guess I'd say quasi-accessory to supermarket. We asked, does it include employees? Does the 100 space estimate include employees? They said it does include employees. We asked, is the floor plan changed? Once they had proposed the reduced seats, they submitted that revised floor plan that's part of that PowerPoint. And then we asked, if the 100 spaces was based on the 252 seats, is there a different projection for the 154 seats? Long story short, I guess, this just came in. The city peer review has not looked at it. I spoke briefly with him. He wasn't in the office when this came in. And I don't know, I'll be honest with you, even if he did look at this, he would give any different opinion. He didn't think the IPE manual basis was reliable, and he gave those technical reasons. So he's not offering, you know, any more opinion than what was in September 16th. And then, like I said, I do have his written statement about the unreliability of what they're using the 100 on. So I'm not suggesting that there's more that the peer reviewer could do, so I don't see any reason that you would want to table it to allow him to review these other answers. I think it's essentially a lot of the same information. We had asked as well, is this actually accessory to the supermarket? There was a lot of reference to shared parking, shared customers, and we were told, which is what you heard in the presentation, in this email, it's not. It is a standalone restaurant, but Mr. Wu owns and operates both. So currently, there's a current owner of both. So that was how that was left. I did just want to clarify that point, that the peer review had not seen this final stuff, nor could I say he necessarily, well, I could say differently, he didn't agree with the 100. He wasn't able to say with certainty that that 100 was based on either a reliable standard or something that he could, you know, they say hang his hat on. So I think I heard the petitioner at the beginning say the peer reviewer was on board with all this. The peer reviewer had seen everything up until the stuff that was today. I won't say that, I don't have anything, he's not necessarily, he didn't write anything new, but as I said, the 100, we weren't able to come to a consensus or agreement on, is that 100 the right number? He kept going back to the zoning. The zoning requires 138. I said, yes, it does. We couldn't reconcile the 100. So I'm leaving that for now. Email dated July 23rd, 2020 from Christine Hawks. You should have a copy of that. There's a, looks like this is highlighted. It's from, she's the Assistant Director of the Waterways Regulation Program, Mass DEP, regarding Chapter 91 compliance. The owner, the manager of the owner, Hamilton Properties, was involved over the past couple months working to try and, you know, get this resolved. They completed the stone dust pathway as of July 22nd. So with an email dated July 23rd, 2020, it says, thank you for providing the photos, because the owner had submitted photos. Based on this information, the site appears to be in compliance with Chapter 91 in its regulations. And that's from Christine Hahn. So that was that piece of it. The other new information you received was what I just mentioned, the spreadsheet titled 188 Commercial Street Capital Projections. That was received August 18th, 20 from petitioner. So I would say that's all the new information we have about those things. The storage trails were removed, I would say, within, I want to say it was last fall, the 3 storage trails were removed. And they're still removed. I will note that when I was out there Monday, there was active delivery trucks parked in the lot. I mean, there weren't cars, they were just parked across the lot unloading. So, I think they were unloading for the beauty supply or one of the other businesses on that side. So they weren't station storage trailers, it was an active trailer that was unloading. There was also a truck at the Super 88 loading dock, which is, you know, where it's supposed to be. Compliance with all conditions of the previous special permit was the other issue. And I had run through those. Pat was talking about September 11, the 2011 decision. You all have a copy of that in here. And we determined compliance with everything. So that is that. So that is everything that we've received. You did table the hearing, not just your decision. So I know you're going to open it for public comments. We do have several letters that were received. We can read into the record. The parking, I will just quickly update before we get to that. I mentioned the difference between the as-built parking plan, what the traffic memo showed, and what the petitioner reported, 298. So I had revised this parking chart, which is the second page of the supplement, for the 294. It's actually 298. So that means they are actually short 87 spaces, which, so I'll just give you the update on that. So 87. So we're short 23% as opposed to 24%. So 87 spaces is the shortage. This is the breakdown for all the other tenants there and what the parking requirements are. You had mentioned this other statement I made in this bullet that says all the other uses require 247 spaces. So that leaves 47 spaces for, but that's not true, so it's 298 minus. So there's actually 51 spaces left for this particular space. So, to the chairman's point, the restaurant could be 4,250 square feet inside if it were to comply with our parking requirements. As the chairman also noted, though, that still leaves 7,000 square feet that would be vacant. So that would only cover a restaurant of that size. If anything else went in there for retail, you need another 32 spaces. So the restaurant is 3 times the parking for any of the other, most of the other business uses. So that is the update for all of that.
Okay, any questions for Michelle on where we sit? Basically, the summary that I took away from it is prior requirements were in compliance with. They removed the trailers. It looks like they got buy-off from DEP on the issues associated with the river. And then the remaining issues are the deficiency in the parking and the question around that the traffic, the peer review of the traffic brought up about where that 100 spaces came from.
May I
Any other
say
questions?
something?
No one had to answer. Yes, Mr. Duke, go ahead.
Thank you, board members. May I ask the board if they would consider, there's been a lot of back and forth over the past month with COVID, and it's been a year. This board has put a lot of work into this. Ken Petraglia has put a lot of work into it. Michelle has put a lot of work into it. We would like the board to consider giving us an opportunity to get back with Ken Petraglia and just go over these details, because it's really been a lot of back and forth in just the past 2 weeks. We've been trying to answer it in a timely way. So here we are today, and I just rather not give it all up. I know Ken is still not on board completely, but I think we can get there with the numbers, and I think the seating. I think everybody agrees that the parking may be underutilized in that place, and a lot of the this restaurant use, the food court, will be used on weekends when the bank is closed. So all of these things is really what Mr. Ham has pointed out. And I think that there might be a way to get to some happy place that everybody can feel comfortable without just sending, voting on this tonight. So I would ask the board consider that. And through no fault of the owner, through no fault of Mr. Wu, the owner had some issues that we had to wait for that to get resolved, to get even back to the board. So just don't want to give it all up with everything considered. I'd ask the board to consider just giving us one last chance to get back with your traffic engineer. Thank you.
So, Michelle, we would proceed and hear the testimony, and then if the board decided to propose tabling, then we would open it all up again at the next time when they finally get it resolved. That's the path.
You could do that. I mean, I would, since there is a lot of testimony, like, there was a lot of testimony last time too, which we're not gonna redo. This should only be new testimony, effectively. So yes, you could either table it now before the testimony, or you could go forward with the hearing, take in all the testimony, and then either make a decision or table your decision, and or table the hearing again if you want to open it up, or you could just table. Thing is, if you receive new information, you should reopen the hearing, at least if any comments on the new information. If it was just like a submit a plan procedural thing, you wouldn't, well, even that you probably would want to open up. So yeah, that would be an option.
That would be an option, okay.
Yes. Keep in mind, I'll mention one thing you did mention, you have the 8 members. These would be the same 8 members that would be voting. Even though, Lisa did hear all this testimony, she didn't hear that August, and one of the two of the other members heard the other testimony, but didn't hear this testimony. So you definitely are gonna be locked in with these the 8 members that are voting tonight.
Right. Right. No,
Okay.
understood.
And I would say if you're gonna also move forward, we can get to that, but maybe you might want, I think they did give a lot of information, but some more information on this business model. If he owns and operates similar food courts, maybe we could get a little more information on how this works. I am still a little concerned that this does say tenant space. And I would definitely like a verification that this is not, these aren't gonna be subleased or licensed. That the owners, the operator is very clear about that. I'm not sure about that, based on the plan, although the petitioner's representative is stating he is, so. So maybe I would encourage the board, if you do that, to ask any other questions for any other information you want them to provide as well. Maybe the number of employees, things like that, if that, you think that's helpful, for the other businesses you mentioned.
Okay. Before we do that, is there anyone that feels strongly that they would make a motion to table right now?
I would make a motion.
Okay, before we do that, we want to identify what we want to hear. So we definitely want to hear the feedback from Ken on that 100-unit number. We would want to hear about the number of employees associated with Super 88, with the proposed restaurant, and I'd like to see an estimate of all those in the plaza. Any information on this shared business model that they proposed. Verification on the plan saying that they're gonna be leased kiosks, and the testimony tonight that they're all gonna be owned by Mr. Wu. Anything else that anyone has?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Would this be ever be subdivided into 2 types of use, so that the parking could be satisfied in a smaller, with a restaurant, a smaller space in your town?
Well, here's the problem. Yes,
Exactly.
it could, but what I see with the issue with that is it's got 11,000 square feet, 11,500 square feet. So let's say just to keep the math easy, it's 4,500 square feet. 12, right? So that's gonna get up to 54. They only have 61. All right, so they're already short, and then there's another 7,000 square feet that they've got no parking available on site to satisfy the issue. So I think the way they have to do it really is if they were going to subdivide this 11,500 and not have it be restaurant use.
Right.
Have it be a lesser
here in this case, so I don't know if it would be wholesale and distribution and retail and restaurant within that 11,000.
Yeah, they'd have to come up with some combination that fell within that 50 spots for the remaining pieces.
Right, but the retail itself is gonna require 4 spaces per 1,000. So retail use of that space already requires 44.
Right.
So that's
almost
right.
full.
It's only leaving 7 spaces left for that. But on that note, I think, and it's up to the board, but it may be worth for the petitioner to explore if this really is owned and operated by the supermarket, and it's almost sort of accessory to the supermarket, same employees, same customers, may be similar to that, market basket model where within the market basket there's a little food, you can get this, you can get that, there's tables you can sit at, you can sushi, sandwiches, and I'm not saying that is his model, but then it wouldn't be separate parking for the accessory. It would be accessory restaurant. It wouldn't, you still would need to come in for the permit, but you wouldn't be looking at the same parking requirements. It would get added in as regular retail parking. So that might be the other option to look at. If half is retail and the other half or whatever is part of the supermarket. But, I mean, I'm not, redesigning your plan, that would be another option. If again, if it's owned and operated by the same person and the food's back and forth and the employees are back and forth, and what that might be. But I would like, before you do vote, feedback from Ken Petrali regarding the 100. He's given us the feedback, but I think it's more that you want the petitioner to provide more information.
Well, the petitioner seems to believe he's got these backup that Ken's gonna all of a sudden buy into. If they're pulling the data from a book, or
Right.
one of those, the traffic guidance books,
Right.
I don't know that Ken's ever gonna agree with that, based on his previous letters to us.
Right, yeah,
Right.
he didn't
But-
agree with it, right?
But the petitioner seems to think he has a way of convincing him that using numbers out of the book is valid for an on-site location count.
It's not so much, I think we can convince them. I think because there's been so much back and forth in the last really 2 days, we haven't really had the benefit of a real good conversation back and forth between our traffic engineer and Ken. And if Ken doesn't go along with us, I mean, we'll live with that. We just want to make sure we're making a really good, complete presentation. And I apologize for the lateness of some of the paperwork that Michelle got, and she's been really gracious and getting back to me. But it's been a whirlwind, really, in the past month between the COVID and getting back geared up. So I appreciate the board even considering letting us give more information. And I think that way there, the board can make the best decision, whatever they decide.
That point, I feel comfortable that I can move ahead tonight, knowing what I know, just because of the parking requirements. And unless you're gonna come up with more parking someplace, another 80 or 90 spaces, I don't know that you're gonna come up with that if we postpone this another couple months. I don't know if that's gonna happen. But if other board members feel that they wanna try to give them a shot, Diane said she's willing to make a motion for it.
If I may just, it's not, I don't think we're gonna come up with.
It's up to the board to see if they agree that there might be some option to get there, then, then that's the way the board will go. And then we've got these other items. If there's other pieces of information people want, now would be the time to get it down on paper for Michelle to document. Is there anything anyone else wants to add? Oh, I'm sorry, are you playing with your pen or are you?
No, to both, but I do want your attention.
Okay, yes, Eric Henry.
Yes, thank you. Just a point of clarification here. So, just so I'm understanding, the original plan had seating for 252, and there was a proposed reduction down to 154. And I understand that they're still 87 spaces short. So I just wonder, how many spaces were they short before? Was it 91?
Well, the same one, because the parking requirements aren't based on number of seats. It's based on the square footage. So the square footage previously was 11,500 at 252 seats. The square footage was 11,500 at 154 seats. So the parking requirement remained 138 in each one. What's moved around is the total number on the lot. At one point they said it was 300. At one point they said it was 294. And as of today, it sounds like they said it was 298. So they didn't change the size of the proposed facility. They only changed the seats it comprised in that. And that wouldn't have changed the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
They're short 94 spaces. Is that what I said before? No. 87. So they're short 87 spaces.
Any other questions? Diane, do you still want to make the motion?
Well, I just have another question for clarification. You had mentioned, Michelle, if say we went through the motion here and we went through the entire meeting, I just lost my thought. But you said something about if they get denied, if they got denied, would they be able to come back again with a new plan that would say that it's more of an accessory to the building? Or is that something that they're kind of, out of whack?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to, if I said denied, I didn't mean to say that.
No,
They could modify the plan. If they want to keep their place, before the board, they could propose to modify the plan. They could also just withdraw the petition and refile. If the board disapproves this particular plan, unless it's, on its face, a different plan and proposal when it's filed with the building commissioner, it would have to go through a two-step process to be able to be heard within 2 years. I think accessory restaurant to the supermarket probably is different enough on its face. But I'm not, I'd have to look at the actual application and whatnot, so they wouldn't be bound by the 2-year prohibition. If that's the direction you're going in, I would strongly recommend a withdrawal without prejudice, not a disapproval. If you do want to see something come back, because otherwise we're going to have to sort that out. It may need to come back before the board for you to determine that there have been substantive, that there have been substantial modifications, specific and material changes that address the reason for your denial. So, I wouldn't, if that's where you're going, I would say either they can modify it, you table it, they modify it, or it's just withdrawn without prejudice and they come back with a different proposal. That's what I would, procedurally, that's the easiest, those are the easiest routes. But again, I'm just, based on what I'm hearing, I was suggesting that. I didn't, that's actually not what's shown on the plan. Right. It's not what they proposed, it was just an idea, based on the info.
Okay, so what are you looking to do, Diane?
Well, no, I was, I misunderstood, before where you were saying that because of the square footage there, the parking, so like you said, even if they limited the seating, even if they limited some of the kiosks, the parking still doesn't exist. So I take back the tabling part, and I would go forward, only because, again, you can't change the parking unless he comes back again with another thing, but that's why I brought up, does he have another chance? He could come back with a different petition. Because if the accessory helps with the parking, that might be a way to go.
Okay, so you're withdrawing, you don't want to make a motion at the moment?
Correct.
Okay. Any of them have any questions for Michelle? Ron, could you, the petitioner back on? Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Duca, would you like to add anything else to your presentation?
I would say that we understand fully we're not going to create any more parking spaces. The idea was that the parking lot is underutilized at various times, that it would allow the restaurant to function without impacting the neighborhood. But I would definitely ask for withdrawal without prejudice if the board was going to vote it down. I think all along Mr. Wu was really wanted it as an accessory use and felt that it wouldn't have made any real difference. But it's all semantics, whether it's accessory, to me, whether it's accessory use or, standalone, the parking is, it's either gonna work or it's not gonna work, and that's the opportunity I was looking to have more conversations with Ken, not to create more parking spaces, but to make, to see if he could go along with the way our traffic engineer was looking at it, because we really hadn't had that opportunity really in the last week or so. But I'll defer to the board. I'll be happy to withdraw without prejudice. You know, I
So
think
you request us to entertain a withdrawal without prejudice.
I would ask for, to withdraw without prejudice, rather than get a denial.
Yeah, you're sure, so, well, we don't know that it's gonna get denied, but are you asking for it to be withdrawn without prejudice? Or,
I'm trying to have it both ways. I mean, I'd rather have a table to get back together and see if I could work something out with the traffic, to try to convince the traffic engineer that he can make a positive recommendation. If that's not possible, there's no sense even coming back.
so you're not requesting a withdrawal without prejudice? Mr. Duca, are you requesting a withdrawal without prejudice?
I am
If not-
requesting to withdraw without prejudice.
Yeah, you're sure, you withdraw
Yes.
without prejudice and end the hearing as it exists right now.
Yes,
Okay, is there a motion for that?
Just the only thing I would say is, you know, if there's any information, and then this goes to, if they're planning to come back, there may be information that you're gonna receive during the hearing that might be useful for them to know now if they're gonna modify their proposal. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what all the testimony is gonna be, but, you know, that would be the only reason I would say you would wanna do the hearing. But they can also, you know, see the records that I have, you won't hear any verbal testimony.
So what are you suggesting?
Well, it's just, I'm just wondering, you know, out loud, if you should at least, you do the hearing and you know he wants to withdraw without prejudice. I mean, I'm not trying to waste people's time, but if there's anything that might come out that might need to be, otherwise it'll come out at the next.
If he comes
Yeah.
back, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a
it'll come out, yeah.
different proposal.
Yeah, it'll come at the next hearing, so that's fine. No, I'm not suggesting anything, I'm just mentioning.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion? Eric Henry.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to allow the petitioner to withdraw his petition without prejudice.
Let's make a motion to allow the petitioner's request to withdraw without prejudice. Is there a second?
Second.
Ferguson, second. Okay, Michelle, when you're ready.
Diane Shuha? Yes. Charles Ferguson?
Yes.
Joanne Scrivasarsi? Yes. Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Eric McCush?
No.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Hagel?
No.
Okay, so that's 6-2, so that motion carried. It only needed a majority to carry. The yes vote was to allow the withdrawal without prejudice. Okay. So it's withdrawn.
Okay, so, Mr. Duca, the petition's been withdrawn without prejudice, and if you come up with something new, you will have to start the process over again.
okay. I appreciate the board's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. The next item on the agenda is, Michelle, I'll leave this to you. The advisory recommendations to the city council.
Yes. Should you post to go on Zoom that we're not sharing anything?
Well, they would have heard.
Oh, they heard it? Oh, okay.
So. Matter. You should have a separate folder. This is the 323 Commercial Street. This is a petition for a special permit to allow marijuana establishment, namely a marijuana retailer in the industrial one zoning district. This is being reviewed by the planning board for the purposes of making an advisory recommendation to the special permit granting authority, who is the city council. So the proposal was already reviewed by the city cannabis licensing enforcement commission. It was approved to proceed to the zoning process, which is the special permit process. If the council grants a special permit, the city will negotiate a community host agreement. Then the petitioner can apply for a license from the state cannabis control commission. If the approval is approved by the state, then it will come back to Malden, and the local cannabis licensing enforcement commission will review it again for issuance of a local license. So you're at the process, we're at the point, we're in the zoning process part of this licensing. And again, you're looking at it for the purposes of making advisory report and recommendation. The city council will need to hold a public hearing. They will receive your report and recommendation. It's advisory, so they don't need to necessarily follow it, but they will receive it. And they will receive, they'll conduct a full public hearing. Then they will make a decision on whether or not to grant a special permit. So everybody is understanding what the process is. You have copies of what was submitted, the permit site plan. You also have proposed floor plan. You also have elevations, renderings. There's another part of a floor plan, a supplemental, I would call it, that looks like this, the colorized floor plan. This is, I'm noting this because this depicts public and employee areas. I did not give you a copy of the traffic impact assessment or the follow-up memorandum. However, you do have a copy of the city's peer review report and recommendation in your package. Imagine a letter from Ken Petralia dated March 16th, March 20th, 2020, and March 16th. There are two letters. So we can, for purposes of this meeting, this is a public meeting, it's not a hearing, so you're not going to hear any public testimony. You just discuss it amongst yourselves and decide whether or not you want to make a recommendation. If you do make the recommendation, we would give the whole report and recommendation. So they will get all the information in this report as well as your recommendation. This report's incorporated by reference into your meeting and decision. Do you want me to go through the report, or, okay?
Take us through the report.
Okay, so the property consists of two separate parcels. They are held in common ownership. You have 323 Commercial Street and then 323B Commercial Street. When I'm talking about the property in this report, we're referring to it as collectively, the property. So there's a one-story building with a mezzanine floor. The total gross floor area is 17,836. So there's a first floor with 16,300 square feet and a 1,536 square foot mezzanine. The majority of the building is located on 323 Commercial Street. A small portion is located on 323B Commercial Street. The petitioners to propose tenants, their proposal is to occupy the property for marijuana establishment use. We have different marijuana establishment uses on the books. This particular one is called marijuana retailer. So it's retail sales of marijuana. They would be doing business at Mystery Mountain Shop. The proposal consists of renovating the existing building and demolishing a portion of the building that's located in the northwestern corner and western side. By demolishing that corner, they would be able to have a one-way traffic circulation pattern circulating around the building. You can see that on the site plan. I believe it's a dotted line showing portion to be demolished. There's actually parking spaces shown over that portion. So it's kind of the rear part of the building, rear and northeastern corner, western and northeastern corner.
In accordance with the city demolition and alteration delay ordinance, the proposed demolition of the portion of the building will require review and determination by the historical commission. I've given you the breakdown here. This is based on the plan. They're proposing to configure the building to have these different areas: the retail dispensers, point of sales, exit vestibules, waiting lounge, vault, receptionist, offices, lounge, conference room, server room, hallways, restrooms. That's all on the first floor. On the second floor, offices, open offices, break rooms, storage, restroom, hallway, and lounge. The column, so the square footage that I'm giving you here is based on what's shown on the plans and labeled. The column that says open to public or open to employee only, P or E, those were provided by the petitioner. That's what's shown on the colorized plan. Because I had asked what was open to the public, what was open to the employees only. So I'm giving you the square footage based on the plans. Also, part of the first floor, there's a sally port, which is used, according to the petitioner, for delivery of products and storage of a transport vehicle if necessary. There's also an indoor parking garage and another parking area with trash. So part of that is open to the public for parking, part of that is employee-only parking and delivery. According to the petition of the second floor is a little larger than what's depicted on the plans. I'm just noting that. I've told you about the plans and information submitted. I'm not going to read everything. It's all listed here. It's all incorporated by reference into this review and your decision. Zoning occupancy, the property is located in the Industrial 1 zoning district. It's currently used for building construction contracting business. That's an industrial use allowed by right in this district. The proposed marijuana retail use is a business use that's allowed by special permit in this district. The direct abutter to the north is the manufacturing business, to the south of retail sales business, to the west the active railroad right of way with the MBTA and commuter rail. To the east on the other side of Commercial Street, a proposed wholesale and distribution and off-site parking facility, that should say, and the DPW City Yard, the Malden River, and, across the other side of Commercial Street is just the proposed wholesale and distribution and proposed off-site parking facility. Surrounding land uses are the daycare, general offices, city DPW yard, the Malden River, and a medical center, community health center. There are residential uses to the west on the other side of the railroad right away on Pearl Street, Medford Street, into the south at Rivers Edge Drive in Medford. In terms of dimensional controls, the original building was constructed before 1939 with rapid additions and alterations through 72. The building predates current zoning. It does not comply with current dimensional controls for the most recent industrial use. It's considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposal includes demolition of a portion of the building that eliminates the building coverage violation. The dimensional controls of the proposed new business use, marijuana retail, are less stringent than the current industrial use. So the proposal does eliminate existing side yard setback violation and building coverage violation. It maintains the front yard setback violation. It creates no new violations or nonconformities. In terms of parking and loading, I've given you the breakdown of what is required for the current use and what is required for the proposed use. And I'm not sure where that number came from. Actually, okay, I am sure that okay, so the building construction contractor use, I believe, uses the whole building, including the parking garage. They're not using it for parking. According to the petitioner, their gross floor area is only 7,288 because it excludes the sally port and indoor parking garage. So that is how they were coming up with that number for the parking. The parking for marijuana retailer is 4 spaces per 1,000, 29 spaces are required, 1 loading space is required. So number of spaces, they're depicting 43 spaces on site, 1 loading bay, 28 outside, 15 inside. Technically, I don't believe the 15 inside count under the zoning, but they do have 43 total on site. the city council and special permit granting authority, like you, can allow that non-conforming, as part of its permitting process, just like you can relook non-conforming properties and legalize new non-conformity. So, they're not, it has not been determined that they need a variance for parking. In terms of the layout, the existing layout's non-conforming. The proposed layout is also non-conforming. But there will now be circulation around the building, one-way circulation. Right now, there is not. In terms of traffic impact, the city's peer review report of petitioner's traffic impact access studies contained in correspondence, as I mentioned earlier, dated February 20th and March 16th from Camp-Italia. It includes the following recommendations for traffic and safety mitigation. 1, regarding signage to install stop traffic signs and stop lines at each egress. 2, pavement markings to add or update all pavement markings within the study area, including crosswalks and roadway edge lines. There was further discussion among city peer review and the traffic engineer, in agreement that the updating would be limited to striping with white 12-inch striping on edge lines and crosswalks on both sides of Commercial Street. And the improved area to be extended from the approach to Medford Street west to the western point of the new existing island that runs westerly past ABCP Head Start Children's Daycare Program at 359 Commercial Street. In terms of traffic signal timing, the proponent has agreed to assist the city to provide improvements related to signal timings at Commercial Street and section with Medford Street, specifically to optimize signal timings to meet current Mass DOT standards. So that's a review of the proposal. I can stop there if anybody has any questions before we get into some of the specific findings that the ordinance requires and recommendation.
Do you know anything about the plans they submitted?
I've reviewed the plans they submitted.
Okay, they've got, what I'm asking is, they refer to retail dispensary, point of sale.
Right.
Is retail dispensary, are they using not to sell it? Like a stamp machine or a soda machine or something like that? Or?
Hold on 1 minute, because I did ask a lot of questions about the plans, and I did receive a lot of information. So let me just look for a minute through my notes to see.
I mean, I see the express order pickup and I think I can envision what that is. Point of sales, I imagine, is a person behind a counter, and I'm just wondering what these 5 retail dispensaries.
Retail dispensary is open to public after ID verification. Point of sale is open but separated by a counter.
It's okay, if you don't,
let me
that
just-
really has nothing to do with the zoning. I was just more curious, trying to understand what's gonna go on inside. I was just curious if they had stuff in,
So point of sale, these are counters with registers. Because I also asked, what are these, in retail dispensary, I asked, what are the 5 double rectangular blocks in circles connected with lines? So I was told the rectangular blocks are display cases. The 4 circles connected with lines are intended to represent a stanchion. So these are the registers. So people come in, these are where the employees are standing behind, come to the counter. These are display cases in here. These are the blocks. In the middle of those arrows, I was asking, what are these blocks?
do you know if they can purchase at those, or is it just sort of advertising?
The display cases. I believe point of sale is all of the registry, but I could ask that. I don't know if I did ask that. No, I don't, there's no representation that there are any machines or anything like that. I thought it was actually seating, I think, when I asked about it.
Okay, no, that's, you don't have to spend a lot of time, I was just more curious. Because the way I understand some of them to work is,
when you purchase it, they bag it up and someone brings it to a pickup area that's outside where they actually sold it. Is how it was described to me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this is showing the people come in, express order pickup, maybe they've ordered in advance. This is point of sale, they told me, was separated by a counter. So the employees are back here. People aren't back here. This is counter in here. The way.
yeah, okay, that's fine. You can move on to the next one. Unless anyone else have any other questions?
I have the bigger plans if anybody.
Eric?
Thanks, Chair. I just have a point of clarification here. I see like on the traffic report and, I see the verbiage uses marijuana dispensary, and I see also say marijuana retailer. And you noted that there was different terminologies for different uses or whatever the case are. What is the difference between, as pertains to this, a dispensary and a retailer?
Yeah, I think the dispensary name is in the state regs, but under our zoning, it is marijuana. We have one category called marijuana establishment, then there are different categories, whatever it's called, subcategories. You have marijuana retailer, which is a retail sale, marijuana cultivator, independent marijuana testing laboratory, marijuana product manufacturer, marijuana research facility, and marijuana transporter. So our zoning contains definitions of all of those. The marijuana retailer is an entity licensed by the commission to purchase marijuana and marijuana products for marijuana establishments and to sell marijuana and marijuana products to marijuana establishments and or to consumers. So I'm not sure, we don't define dispensary. I think that's state terminology. I can look right now, I do have the state regs.
I'm a bit confused as to why our traffic engineer is using dispensary.
Well, he's using it because their traffic study calls it a dispensary. I think maybe in some cities and towns they use that term, but that word dispensary, he copied, or he took that term from their traffic study. But let me just see if I can find dispensary. Well, a marijuana retailer is the same exact definition. We took which I remember now. All our definitions came from the state definitions, so that's good. There are registered marijuana dispensaries, but those are medical marijuana. So medical marijuana treatment centers are registered marijuana dispensaries. I'm not sure. He knows that it was a retail. Because I gave him we worked on the scope together, he saw the plans, and I'm 100% sure, because I have it here, their traffic engineer called it marijuana dispensary. That's all through their report, so. He referenced their report, so he used, here's the original traffic study. It says 323 commercial marijuana dispensary. Here in the paragraph, they call it retail marijuana facility. Consists of retail dispensary in related office space. So this is just a word they're using. It's not defined in our ordinance, so.
Just an issue of say what you mean and mean what you say. All right, thanks a lot.
Michelle, just to clarify, these, they look like couches along the sides, those are actually display cases.
No, the couches are couches.
Oh, okay.
There's seating, the seating, at least I didn't ask about that. I thought that they were couches. seating area.
Okay, so it is a seating area.
Right, it's these 5 blocks. See, inside that arrow,
Correct.
those are display cases. That's what I wasn't sure what that was.
So the custard, that's where people would go and sample the, whatever they're.
That I don't know. I don't think there's any consumption allowed on the premise outside. I think maybe it's a part of the waiting area.
Okay.
But I didn't ask about that. You have to be checked at entry point and allowed in, and then it's a one-way, as you can see from the arrows, to go in and out, so.
Yeah, that was nothing else concerning it, if they could eat there or.
No, well,
or do it.
that I don't know. Consumption of marijuana and or marijuana products is prohibited at or within 500 feet. Definitely can't be inside. Same thing with smoking or burning. Prohibited. We'll get to those, some of those. when we get to them. Sure, okay, so our ordinance has different controls and requirements. As board probably remembers, you held a public hearing jointly with the city council ordinance committee on this ordinance. The final ordinance, includes, that was ordained by the city council, includes that the proposal must be in conformance with the following controls and requirements. So one, the city council must find that any increase parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. Must be located in a permanent building and not within a mobile facility or movable structure. Not be located inside a building containing residential units, including transient housing, such as hotels, motels, dormitories. Must be the principal use of the property, may be accessory only to another type of marijuana establishment at the same property, and shall be prohibited as an accessory use to any other use. The location must comply with the following buffer zones. All distances measured from the closest property line of the proposed marijuana establishment to the closest property line. That, as of the date of the following, the petition for the special permit for the marijuana establishment is lawfully used for the following. So no marijuana establishment shall be located within A, 75 feet of substance abuse treatment center as defined by this ordinance. B, 500 feet of a public or private school providing education in kindergarten, grades 1 to 12. C, 75 feet of any residential use. D, 250 feet of any park, playground, recreational field, or recreation facility, and including but not limited to the Baldwin Teen Enrichment Center, YMCA, and the YWCA. E, 75 feet of any religious facility, and F, 75 feet of any daycare licensed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There's an exception if the property is in the overlay district. This one is not, so I'm not going to go through that. And the building commissioner and zoning enforcement officer, Nelson Miller, has determined that the proposed location complies with all applicable buffer zones, which are all of them. So that would be 5A through F. So the city council must make certain findings in order to grant a special permit. For a special permit to be granted, the city council must find, 1, that the proposal will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood, 2, that the proposal is not in conflict with surrounding land uses, 3, that the proposal is in the interest of the common good, 4, that the traffic and traffic patterns generated by the proposal will not adversely impact any of the surrounding streets or create safety or traffic hazards, 5, that the proposal will not generate any noise, odor, fumes, vibration, heat, or other conditions that may be noxious, or cause a nuisance to the community, danger to public health, or impair public comfort and convenience. And 6, the proposal is not detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the neighborhood or the city. So they will need to hold the hearing, review everything, and make, findings of fact that support making those findings. If they're able to do that, they would be able to, grant a special permit. So the recommendation I prepared is obviously prior to the public hearing, and it's made provided that the city council finds the proposal to be in conformance with those required controls and makes the required findings. So this would be a recommendation that I would recommend that you make to the city council. The special permit is granted subject to the following conditions. Do you want me to go through and read them? Or, okay, so 1 is that all development shall be as per plans, which are incorporated here by reference and except where modified by these conditions. 2, the retail sales area open to the public shall be limited to the location, area, and size shown in the plan. Any change shall require an amendment of the special permit. 3, regarding the portion of the building to be demolished, file a notice of intent to demolish application for review by the historical commission and obtain a determination of significance. 4, install, repair, or replace sidewalks, driveways, and perform necessary incidental work adjacent to the property to the reasonable satisfaction of the DPW director. 5, merge parcels 323 Commercial Street, which is parcel ID 059246643A, and 323B Commercial Street, which is parcel ID 059246603B, with the approval not required subdivision control process. A plan would need to be filed. It will come before this board for endorsement. 6, implement traffic and safety mitigation recommended by the city peer reviewer and reports in November 20th, 2020 and March 16th, 2020 regarding signage at site egresses, pavement markings in the area, and traffic signal timings at the intersection of Commercial and Medford Street. 7, the special permit is non-transferable and non-assignable. 8, design and implement a security plan approved by the Malden Police Chief, which shall include without limitation all security measures for the site, the transportation of marijuana products to and from off-site premises to ensure the safety for employees and the public, to protect the premises property from theft or other criminal activity, a detailed explanation of payment method, if applicable, acceptable at such establishment, and the protection and security of such payments, and if applicable, cash on site, in the presence of the security guard on site at all hours of operation. 9, consumption of marijuana and/or marijuana products is prohibited at or within 500 feet. 10, smoking or burning of marijuana and/or marijuana products is prohibited on the premises. And that other one should say within 500 feet of the property. 11, marijuana in any form, including plants and marijuana products, shall not be visible from outside of the building. 12, any outside storage of any kind is prohibited. 13, any outside display of any kind is prohibited. 14, incorporate odor control technology and provisions that ensure that emissions do not violate Mass General Laws, Chapter 111, Section 31C, including but not limited to those specified for odors. 15, prior issuance of any building permit, occupancy permit, submit copies of the following licenses and approvals. A, valid license issued by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission as defined here in this ordinance. B, a fully executed community host agreement with the City of Malden as defined here in this ordinance. C, any required license and/or approvals issued by the Malden License Board. And D, any required license and/or approvals issued by the Malden Board of Health. I will note that conditions 7 through 15 are required conditions to any special permit in all cases as per the zoning ordinance. So those 7 through 15 are required for all special permits for any type of marijuana establishment.
Okay, any questions for Michelle? If not, is there a motion to make this recommendation to City Council? Eric Kush, and, Eric's gonna make a motion. Make a motion to, recommend to City Council that they grant the special permit subject to all conditions. Charles Ferguson, second. Motion made by Eric Kush, properly seconded by Charles Ferguson.
Do you want to do a voice vote or an all in favor vote, or if the majority, so it's up to you. Do a voice vote? I mean, an individual vote, okay. That is a voice, individual. No, I don't know. Okay, so Diane Schuha. Yes. Charles Ferguson.
Yes.
Joanne Spinsolati. Yes. Lisa Gray.
Yes.
Patrick Hayes.
Yes.
Eric Henry.
Yes.
Eric McCush.
Yes.
Henry Susan.
Yes.
Charles Laovi.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll make that recommendation.
And the other two on,
The other two are not ready. We are in the process, they are in the process of preparing and finalizing, follow-up comments on the traffic impact studies. This is for 7 Linehurst Road, so they're very close to wrapping up. Once they provide the additional information, will complete the peer review. And for 1130 Eastern Ave, they still are in the process of preparing the traffic study, so that's a little further along. I know, tentatively, the city council will be looking to schedule this hearing sometime within the next 60 days. So hopefully at our next meeting, everything will be in order. We should review those two and make recommendations before.
Okay. And did you have an approval last time?
No, that did not ever get filed,
Okay,
so that's not.
we don't have that. So next item on the agenda is update for Community Preservation Committee. Ken wasn't able to make it this evening, however, he did provide an update. There's a new chair of CPC, Lisa Selda, 2 new members. He doesn't say who they are. And the Ward 5 seat remains unfilled. They've been reviewing the last of the fiscal year 2020 applications, taking a break from accepting any new fiscal year 2021 applications, while the committee reorganizes the training and hires a new admin. So that's the CPC update. Inclusionary Zoning Advisory Committee update.
Yes, that is, a group that I'm working with, and we're working with a consultant on a financial feasibility study that will be done in advance of finalizing the draft on the affordable housing or the inclusionary housing ordinance. So the feasibility study is being done so that some of the requirements can be set. We need the study to determine what some of the appropriate requirements will be, and we'll use the study for that. So that's in the process. This group, that's what the group is working on, working with the consultant to do that. When that ordinance is prepared and filed, it will come to this board to do the zoning board. So you do a joint hearing with the council, but we're not at that point yet.
Okay, and what about the Broadway corridor plan?
The Broadway corridor plan is just about finalized. I think we've seen a final draft, so we should be seeing that soon. We've been working with the consultant to finalize that.
Very good. Anything else, Michelle?
No, just the next meeting.
Yes, I was just looking up on the calendar. We're looking at the next meeting being September 23rd, Wednesday, September 23rd. And which point, after that, we should be back on our second Wednesday of the month cycle. So we should be able to get that done. But it's the 23rd, and then the next meeting we would then have would be October 14th. So just to lay out the next couple meetings. There's a handful of petitions or requests, possible cases that are floating around out there, and depending on how quickly they hit, we may have to try to slide in a special meeting if the workload exceeds more than 2. Now, we've done 2, it's 10 o'clock, it's been 3 hours, we did 2 hearings. I don't know that any of the ones coming down the pike are going to be any easier, so I think we want to try to stick with 2 hearings a night. What do people think?
Yeah, because that one, the first one was, I mean, the second one was fun. It was kind of like, we
Right.
midnight.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
this
this
one
was like an hour and a half. And then we, yeah, so.
Okay, so we'll stick with 2 hearings, schedule 2, and then the next one, we're aiming at, unless there's some sort of problem, September 23rd, Wednesday, September 23rd.
Yeah, I've actually kind of confirmed that date with potential petitioners with Ron Parker, who's doing our administrative position with the room, availability, things like that. So that's pretty set on our end, is when it's there, and I think I confirmed with everybody here.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ron Cochran and Paul Hammersley. Appreciate all your help getting this rolling for us. Hopefully, it seemed to be okay. Some of the quality of what we were hearing through the Zoom, I think might have got lost on the bigger scale, but some of it was breaking up, especially in the first petition. But thank you guys very much for hanging in there with us and doing something special and new and different than what a lot of the others are doing. But I think it worked out really well. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone out there who attended. I still see the list of attendees out there. It's pretty extensive. Thank you for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Have a good one.
Motion to adjourn?
Second for motion, Diane, motion adjourned. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All.